Welcome to the Shadow Archives, the first fan-led show dedicated to the Blade of Shadows. And this is our first official episode of the Archives, and we're starting our reread of the series leading up to the release of Book 7, Lost Legacy of Time, sometime in, Q1 of 2027. I'm joined by my friends and 5 fellow fans from all across the world. Let me introduce everybody. We have Louise from Denmark, Sam from England, Patrick from North Carolina, Lisa from Virginia, and I am your host, Matt from Ohio. What is up, everybody? It's been a couple of weeks since we all got together.
Yeah.
It's been busy.
How we feeling?
Oh,
How we
love
feeling
it.
about this?
Love it.
Excited.
It's finally nice to be able to reach out and talk to some people that love it as much as I do, especially when we actually get to start really nitpicking on some of the questions, like some of our thoughts. Like, no, maybe not, but that's a good question. So,
yeah, for sure. Man, I didn't think we were going to have as much to talk about as we do with these first 6 chapters. I thought it was going to be like a lot of introduction stuff, but I feel like there's a lot that we can nitpick and Easter eggs and stuff.
I'm hoping that there are readers out there who will read along with us and leave comments. And I just think this reread is going to be so rewarding to get to the last book.
yeah.
For sure. I did have something I wanted to talk with everybody about before we even get into the chapters. Narration style. I wanna make sure. I want to know what you guys think. So, okay, it's multiple points of view, and Sara is a very descriptive author, like lots of adjectives, adverbs, similes, metaphors, the works, right? Here's what I want to know. When we get all of these non-dialogue type of descriptions, do you think that the character is actively describing and understanding the world around them, meaning like we are always inside of their consciousness? Or do you think there's a little bit of narrative license going on where the characters might not be aware of what the author is telling us?
That's an interesting thought.
Like, how have you been reading it? I suppose maybe that's a different way to put it.
I'm in the character's head, but there are always surprises that come. So you got to ask yourself, are we getting everything from their point of view?
And I think I've been reading it more as a narrative view. Like Sarah's looking over top and describing the room as they see it, but yet still filling in some things that would be pertinent to the reader, not so much the character.
Yeah, I think I'm actually a little bit of both, because I think we are told some stuff and I'm like, no, I don't think the character is noticing this. So I think it's a little bit of both for me.
Yeah, and I'm the same. I feel like it's a bit of both. Like sometimes when I'm reading, it's like I'm in their head, but then the other times it's like you're above the map and you're just viewing everything that they're describing or noticing things that they haven't noticed yet.
I think I'm a little bit like Lou and Sam. I'm a little bit of a hybrid because it just, especially when we get into the Shadow Lord trials themselves, I'm just like, man, you're being burned to death by oil. How are you describing the world like this? Okay, anyway, that's interesting. I'm glad we have different points of view. This is fascinating. I really wonder what Sara would say if we posed that question to her.
I'd be interested to see how she wants us to read it though, as well. Like if she's written it in a specific format.
Yes.
You want me to ask her?
I'd be interested whether she.
It wouldn't matter if you asked her or not. She would still be like, but each reader's different and each reader's going to pick out their own certain thing. And I wrote it for the reader to figure it out. And she still confuses us.
The first thing in the books is always the dedication. Sam, have at it. Bring
For
the
the
British.
Shadow Lords, for the Shadow Lords of the Forgotten Realms, names whispered in fear, deeds etched in blood. Come closer, dear reader, fear not. What lies ahead is not a tale of heroes, but of power claimed, bonds broken, and darkness given its first shape. The secret of the origins awaits within these pages, unchanged, unforgiven, and already set in motion.
Man, I need Sam to read this entire
I
novel
love
to me.
that. You did a great
Right?
job.
Yeah.
Sam's over here like, I have dyslexia, and I'm like, I just need Sam.
sure.
That's what. Okay, did anybody pick up any Easter eggs in this? I took so many notes, but I don't want to just sit here and talk.
I didn't the first time I read it. Because I'd read it as just like a singular book. Now, because I read it towards the end of the series, now reading it as the first book of the reread, it's almost changed my perspective on the whole series. But then I sort of know what happens further along. So yeah, it has opened my eyes to some of the things that are hidden.
I suppose the first words right off the bat are what strike me, and I'm curious on y'all's take on it. For the Shadow Lords of Forgotten Realms. Forgotten Realms. Are we
More than one.
are we talking about? Ooh, more than one. I didn't write down more than one. More than freaking one. I was thinking about Solaris. Is this a reference to Solaris? But
I think
Lou
there's
has
more
to.
than one.
She has to point out plural. What's the other one?
We'll have to wait and see.
Okay, so then what lies ahead is not a tale of heroes, but of power claimed, bonds broken, and darkness given its first shape. So I'm curious, are we talking about power claimed being the ultimate end of the story where Lazarus and Salvatore ascend to Shadow Lords? Or do we think this is more of a reference to Severen feeding his shadows the entire story and claiming
Man, it could
power
be
that
either.
way?
Yeah, it could be either for sure.
But then that bit, I've read it as more of like the powers claimed by the person more than actual physical sort of manifestations, if that makes any sense. Like the power that they have upon themselves, not necessarily the actual powers. Does that make sense?
So it's like they're claiming power when they ascend to become Shadow
Like,
Lords type of a thing?
no, I just mean power over their own lives from the start. If you think about
Ooh.
Lazarus, obviously within the first chapter, and I think it's about how he's trying to claim back his life, if it were, of the stuff that he's, going through in the beginning of the book.
Interesting. I like the idea of like autonomy rather than actual mystical magical powers. That's a cool read.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you guys think of the darkness given first shape? What are we referencing? What is the first darkness?
Well, I don't think it's the first darkness. I just think it's the first shape of what darkness is to that individual. Because it's going to be different for Lazarus. It's going to be different for Salvatore. Obviously, it's different for Severen. And who knows all the other Shadow Lords that are out there and where they ever may be. Because I mean, I think that's in the first part, the prologue, where it talks about the one that he's putting into his tome. Where like
Gareth?
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just it. So I think just the darkness is different for everybody. That's the way I read it anyway. It's like it's the first form of darkness for that particular Shadow Lord, because each one has to give up something, and it's always something different.
But it could also be a reference to the very end of the book, or it could be a reference to becoming Shadow Lords, or
It's Sara.
yeah,
So many possible answers.
and then the final line, the secret of the origins await within these pages, unchanged, unforgiving, and already set in motion. Already set
For
in
sure.
motion was the thing that caught my mind. But if it's already set in motion, what's the original impetus? Who's you know what I mean?
Who pushed?
Yeah. What was the first? Sarah's brain is messed up, y'all. I'll just put it out there. Like, who writes this? Like,
I know that the questions, I did talk to her, I think it was earlier last week, and the questions that I sent her, because I've been doing a lot of studying in Timeborn again, and she said, "Oh, the questions you have, yep, they're going to be answered." And I'm like, "That's all you're giving me?" Okay.
read and find out.
Yeah,
That is the fantasy author's best friend.
Exactly. So I was like,
continue.
well, that doesn't help me out at all. Thanks, Sara.
Let's jump into the prologue. In the prologue, we meet Severen, a Shadow Lord who seems to be self-admittedly like a bad dude. And he does two main things through the prologue, right? The first is that he binds Gareth into the pages of a shadow tome. Gareth is another Shadow Lord, and then places the tome on like a bookshelf with a whole bunch of others just like it, which is like, what? And we learned that he does it by forcing a Noctis brew down Gareth's throat. And we know from Sweet Venom that Noctis like makes the shadows inert. But here's my question. I'm going to try to kick off the first set of discussion. In Sweet Venom, we are led to believe and we are told that the Noctis flower only grows in Solaris. And the only reason it bled over into the mortal realm was because Isabel like fractured time and the barrier between the realms when she pulled the blade of shadows apart. So my question is, how in the world does Severen have the Noctis flower in order to make the Noctis brew? Does anybody have any
Sara.
answers to this?
Yeah.
And we'll find out in the last book.
I think the way that I read it, if anybody's ever read like the Golden Compass or what's it called, the Northern Lights book series, about how there's threads. So each how do they describe it? Every word has a parallel, and the parallel is like a thin veil, basically. I wonder whether the veil's broken, that he can reach in and
Oh, that's a good explanation.
get it.
because obviously they crossed over because they brought Isabel back over. So where is that Noctis flower?
So where are they in that
In the
time frame
timeline.
where he's got the tomes and stuff?
We're led to believe, spoiler alert, Solaris is created at the end of this novel, which leads one to believe that Solaris doesn't exist right now, right?
Correct.
but the Noctis flower exists.
So it must have to do with the veil, like Samantha said. Perhaps.
I mean, I know there's an answer. Can somebody answer me this? When did Sara write Shadow Lords? Did she write Shadow Lords and then Sweet Venom, or did she write Sweet Venom and then Shadow Lords?
Sweet Venom
Sweet
and then
Venom
Shadow
is
Lord.
first.
Okay, so she already has all of the lore written down before. So this is not a continuity mistake.
No, she does not
She
make
doesn't do that.
mistakes. It's all thought out. She's got it all here.
Well, it may look like a mistake, but not. It's a well-placed mistake.
She doesn't make
It's on
mistakes.
purpose.
Suppose my next question is, why does Severen not succumb to the Noctis flower? Because like we learn in Sweet Venom that only time healers have any sort of blood immunity to the flora and fauna that is poisonous in Solaris. They're the only ones that can like touch it and not die. So how can Severen like even brew the potion and handle the potion? I think there's more to
Maybe he's
Severen
like-
that we don't know and we don't
Maybe he's just
understand.
like
This dude
the
is nuts.
OG Shadow Lord of all Shadow Lords.
Yeah, I definitely think there's more to Severen than, in a lot of the discussions we've had, she's said that Severen is a big character that may or may not be completely revealed in this series.
Do you guys think that Severen is the OG Shadow Lord? Because there's a bunch of Shadow Lords. He's got the tomes full of them. Is Severen the first, or is he like an upstart
It
that's
could
doing
be
a coup?
either, but he's in
Ooh, there's a
charge
good
for
question.
sure. Whether it was from the beginning or right now, he's
Well, I see Severen being an upstart. Like, nope, I want the power. I'm gonna do it. It's gonna be
Oh.
my way or the highway. I can definitely see him being that type of Shadow Lord. Because if he was the OG, then he wouldn't have to worry about putting people in their tomes and put them on a shelf. He would already have
Yeah. Yeah.
that aura of being, you can't touch me. So now he's like, nope, I'm going to make sure that I'm the one that's untouchable, and I'm going to make sure of it. And I'm going to make sure everybody gets in their tome, and I'm going to hold on to all the tomes because I'm going to make sure you
I
stay
can see
there.
that.
So we need the OG to put him into his place.
Which begs the question, if there is no Shadow Lord in existence, how does the first person become the first Shadow Lord? That's
That's the question.
It's very philosophical.
anyways, but I guess moving away from Severen for a hot second, which I read this book as there's like a overhang of Severen throughout the entire thing. But moving away from him for a second, he's binding Gareth. And Gareth is very upset that Severen found his bloodline. And are we all in agreement on what his bloodline is and why it's important?
What do you think?
I think any bloodline, because obviously you had to give up something, and obviously he tried to protect, just like Lazarus in the kids, with Jack and John, he hid them. So obviously there's a reason why you would not want to have your bloodline known. So it's interesting that he is that adamant right before he gets sucked into the pages of his tome, and that vocal about it. I was not expecting that. That one kind of blew me away, with his bloodline for sure. Answered some questions of Amara, for sure. But then that also created even more questions about Amara on top of that.
Yeah, I feel bad for Tam that Tam's not here because this is going to be a very Amara heavy conversation at some point here, I think. But I guess to Lisa, I guess the bloodline that I'm aware of is Amara is
Oh,
Gareth's
right.
daughter,
Okay.
and then Amara marries Lazarus, and they have Jack and John together, and then Jack has
Theodora.
Olivia,
Don't forget about Theodora.
and yes, and the little girl, who becomes a big thing in Timeborn.
Mm-hmm.
And then Jack has Olivia, and Olivia's kind of, I don't know if you guys read the books, but
Oh,
Olivia's kind
yeah.
of a big deal.
She's my favorite.
She's kind of a thing.
Little bit.
I know.
And Gareth mentions, somebody's gonna have to tell me with this. I don't have an answer to this one. Gareth mentions that Severen also bound Mariana. I'm guessing that's a shadow mistress.
Mistress of Shadows, yeah.
Who exactly is Mariana? Is that,
I'm still trying to figure that one out.
because we know Salvatore's mom is a mistress of shadows. Is that Mariana? Is Mariana Gareth's wife?
I don't know. I'm still trying to figure that one out. Again, my PowerPoint, my little lines of everything, it's this big spaghetti that I'm trying to figure out. And every time I think I get something, I have to wait a second, hold on. Let me go back to my chart and see where I'm at. Nope, that doesn't work out right. So that's
I have a big blank wall in my living room, and I'm pretty sure by the end of this, I'm going to have strings coming off of everywhere and
Like a
those
crime scene.
detective boards.
Yes.
Yeah, trying to
Yes,
work out who's where and
go full beautiful mind on it, Sam.
yeah.
Oh man, oh beautiful mind.
I guess the other thing that Gareth mentions is that two will rise. And I think that we're Severen is very honed in on this being Salvatore and Lazarus. I'm curious, do you guys think that's the two that
That's
Gareth
what
is
I
talking
thought,
about?
but I don't know. Not everything is as
No.
it seems.
Who do you think it is, Lou? You seemed very eager about the know.
She's right here.
I'm not sure who it is yet, but I just think it's too easy with them. It's too easy for Sarah.
Two will rise.
I will agree with you because I think Gareth continues to say something along the lines of, when they are older and stronger, they'll come for you. And Lazarus, Salvatore don't come for him. They're brought to him.
Yeah, for sure.
There's a difference.
I read it as a prophecy, knowing that there's throughout the books there is the prophecy, not necessarily mentioned fully, but definitely there's undertones of a prophecy that's been put forward and stuff. I think it's to do with people that we already know in the rest of the books. I wouldn't be surprised if it was Roman and Olivia, but
I wouldn't be surprised if it was Roman and Olivia's kids.
I was about to say that.
We get an entire other set of 10 books.
There's the spinoff she's talking about.
But I do like your idea, Sam, that if it's Olivia and Roman, that means that Lost Legacy is going to be a pretty dang cool battle between them and Severen, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, I think the reason why I've always thought it was Roman and Olivia was, can we say some spoilers of the rest of the books if we've already read them?
Yes, this is full spoilers. The entire point of this is to reread and find all of the connections. Heck yeah.
Perfect. The bit where Malik was saying about the previous, their previous lives and how they used to be these people and how they used to be these people, there's no mention of anybody else having this ability to be people from previous lives, their Rosie's mum and dad from before, and then they die, and then it's almost like they're reincarnated into the next generation, and so on. So that's why my mind's always thought that the two that will rise is the two that have continuously been either brought together or reincarnated into another form of themselves.
I think that makes sense.
They are the only two that have been come back, that have been reincarnated.
Amara has been reincarnated multiple
True.
times.
But she's always
She has
come
been
back as herself.
reincarnated. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
They've
because
always come back as
Lazarus has
somebody
ensured that.
else.
Yeah, and Amara's come back to be Amara.
So then you have to wonder how Gareth knows this. And if Lazarus and Salvatore bind him in his tome, that means he has to be released from his tome in order for other people to come for him.
True.
And that's a little bit messed up. Well, I guess, all right.
These are way too deep.
After-
Wow.
Welcome to my brain,
Yeah.
I guess. So then, what's his face? Severen does his stuff with Gareth, and then he's like, I'm going to go visit these 12-year-olds because they're little jerks that I got to deal with, but I'm not actually going to deal with them because that would ruin the entire book. And we see that Lazarus and Salvatore are in the city of Ugarit, like in a street fight, because as one would, you know. Did anything about any of this kind of stand out to anybody?
I thought it was interesting the difference between the two. The other side of the tracks aspect. And yet they still were best friends, you know. And then it turned out that the way you grow up is how you grow up when push comes to shove, you know, later on in the book, obviously. But I did think that it was interesting, especially as big and bad as Salvatore is in the rest of the books, he's a wimp. You know, at 12 years old, you know. So I mean that's how I read into it anyway.
Ladies,
I
go ahead.
liked how both of them wanted what the other one had. Like, Salvatore obviously wants the money, the life where he doesn't have to, you know, worry about providing. Whereas Lazarus is like family, family, family.
It is really interesting, though, that like Lazarus, they both want what the other has, but like Lazarus doesn't do it in an envious, covetous way, but Salvatore definitely does it in a envious, jealousy type of wanting.
Yeah.
I've always thought that character dynamic is really interesting. Lou, you have any takeaways?
No, I think I just agree with what you already said, actually. And I was more focused on the dynamic between them and the differences. It was a little bit like, you know, light and dark. And Sarah is good like that. I think she does it a lot, you know, we have these comparisons. And it works.
It definitely works. I think the
But
one
I have a question.
shoot,
I
ask
don't know
away.
I don't know if it's relevant now, but I've been wondering a bit about Lazarus's name, because I'm like, okay, is he gonna die and wake up or what? But I don't know if
Oh,
it's just
heyo.
me. I've just been wondering a lot.
I have wondered about a lot of biblical allusions, and I asked Sarah directly on the phone one time if anything in these books are allusions to either our world or other literary works, and she said no, that this series of books is 100% for escapism, and it's not meant to be any sort of allusion. And that kind of bummed me out. Like, I like it. I like her answer, but it also kind of bums me out. But it would be really, really cool if Lazarus does get like offed and then comes back, just like the Lazarus in the Bible. I hadn't actually considered that before.
I thought that was a funny when I first read the name, not in this book, obviously, but in the series, because I had to read this one as it was published. I always wondered if that was an interesting name to have in a book, because I can't think of another book that's got Lazarus in it. I don't know if that's one of those that authors look at as a taboo name to put into a book just because of the biblical aspect of it. But I can't think of reading Lazarus
Probably.
in a book. And then Sarah's got him as a major character that is around and plays a big part in multiple scenes from the darkness.
I think the most interesting thing I took away from Salvatore watching the street brawl is it's possibly the very first time that we hear the shadows talking to the Shadow Lord. There's a little scene in there where he says, or where the book says, behind me the darkness convulsed. Kill them now, while they are weak. The whispering teeth of shadows scraped at my thoughts. And I think it's the first time we ever hear that the shadows are speaking to the Shadow Lords. And I didn't read it that way the first read through. I only read it that way this time. The first time I thought, oh, he's just a crazy dude. He's just nuts.
I didn't catch that.
What did you guys catch this or think about it or anything?
No, thank you.
But now you said it, when you said about when you read it the first time and now you've read it the second time and it's like it's more prominent. I wonder if he is just crazy. Because none of the other ones, like, or nobody's ever mentioned that there's voices. So whether it's because he is big bad.
I want to say both. I mean, the shadows talk to the Shadow Lords. That's pretty clear. But is Severen nuts? I mean, why not?
Obviously.
Well, I guess the prologue comes to an end with Severen's internal monologue, being like about his ultimate purpose, where he talks about, I want to continue to be the last king of shadows. And I found that interesting because, like, king of what? Could this still happen? What if he's getting rid of all the other Shadow Lords? Who's the king? Who's he the king of?
Right. And do all the shadows follow him?
Just to see, yeah.
But then we jump forward 9 years into chapter 1. And this is really Salvatore comes home empty-handed, and the Balric bargain has like fallen through. And we get a real insight into his relationship with his father.
It
Real good
falls
times.
back. The prologue's from 1282 and the first chapter's from 1273.
Well, yes.
Exactly.
Did I miss something?
Right.
I'll
I
be
thought you
darned,
said
I
jump
did not
forward.
even notice that.
It does
But it
jump forward,
jumps
right?
back.
In BC, well,
Yeah.
in BC, we count down to 0. So the numbers get smaller as you get closer to 0, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Fair.
Okay, I got real confused there for a hot second.
I did as well because I was like, hold on a second, it's the other way around. But I didn't realize that the numbers do that in BC.
That's right.
So that's even just another reference to the
That's
biblical
right.
time. And Lazarus.
Right.
I guess we'll see in Solaris. Wow.
Has anybody given any thought to So we have like two peoples that the city of Ugarit is either negotiating with or fighting against. And this negotiation is with the Balric bargain, and then the war they have is with the Sea Peoples.
What do you mean?
And I've always wondered if they're the same.
I didn't even think about that because I read it as two different.
Me too.
But even then, the Sea Peoples, there wasn't like they were at the coast. If you if you have the description of where they were fighting. So is the Sea People like the Dead Sea, where it's a landlocked sea?
I mean, that's rough because Ugarit is a port city right there on the north of Syria on like the Mediterranean. But I know back then there was a Balearic people, so like close in spelling but different in spelling, and that was like the Western Mediterranean, like Spain and Majorca. That's why I've always wondered if they're the same thing. And
That's
does the
the way
war
I
happen
see it.
because this negotiation falls through? I don't know.
Yeah, I read it.
I think it's
two
a lot
separate-
easier to read it as two separate. I think that's an easier interpretation. I guess.
Well,
Do you guys have any big takeaways from this chapter 1?
yeah, and his connection
other
is only
than Salvatore fighting with
who
his
he can
daddy
count
and having
on
daddy problems.
and be vulnerable with is Lazarus.
Interesting
has
family
him
dynamic.
As I think he considers Lazarus more a family than his dad.
It also really plays into what he's willing to give up, to ascend, or what he desires, that he's going to have to give up.
He gives up the he gives up the ability to have kids and have a family of his own, right?
Mm-hmm. Correct. That chance of him actually being part of what Lazarus had.
I think the biggest takeaway I had was there's a lot of imagery where the Lorian household almost seems to be alive. And
anything's possible in these books.
Do we think that Severen is there manipulating stuff? Or is this literally just the author giving us descriptive description?
Well, Severen does say that he visits them and the shadows are keeping tabs and he's the one that's guiding them. So yeah, so it would feel, I hadn't thought about it until just now, but it would make sense that the walls were alive and the house was alive. From Salvatore's point of view, even though he didn't realize it, because Severen's been guiding these two, Lazarus and Salvatore, this whole time towards getting them, to prison.
Definitely.
To make them the Shadow Lords. So that's an interesting thought. Because it did feel like it was alive when I was reading it.
Well,
I guess it's either that or it's just like
Severen's
Salvatore's anxiety and fear, I guess, manifesting itself
effect on
in some way. In
Salvatore's family,
brain.
having him be basically the cast out would definitely be a good way to manipulate him into becoming a Shadow Lord eventually, because of his father's emotional and physical abuse. All he wants is to be worthy and powerful. And what's more worthy and powerful than being a Shadow Lord?
Question for sure. Have you guys given any thought to how Lord Lorian knows that Salvatore messed up this deal?
So I don't know.
How does he know before Salvatore can tell him?
Severen putting it into his head? Bingo. Why not?
How would Severen do it?
Whispers of shadows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you do that from a distance? Or do you have to physically be there?
the shadow can just talk to each other, and then you can pass it through from shadow to shadow.
Okay. I'm willing to buy that. Because otherwise it's like time travel, right?
Well, my question would be, could you use the shadows, for example, just a shadow that's cast on the wall as like um an amplifier? You know what I mean? Like if you've got a chandelier that's got candles and the candles are casting shadows on the walls, obviously there's reasons for it, but whether they're using them as like an
To whisper.
amplification
Yep.
to not necessarily need to be there, but maybe use it as a device to yeah.
I like that. Almost like you're like the CIA and you're bugging a house, but kind of
Yeah,
like in
but like
reverse. The
not
bugs talk to you
yeah.
instead of just record. I like that, Sam.
Yeah, that's because I could see that being farther away from the Shadow Lord that couldn't do anything physical, but yet they could be in the shadows.
But
No
also
pun
like, you
intended.
know, if he's watching and stuff, how is he watching? Could he use the shadows to
Because
watch? Then could he use the
he also
shadows
knew Salvatore's
to
father
pass on the
also
information
knew
without actually having to
about
physically be
his complete
anywhere?
mismanagement of the battle and how he lost 10,000 men, and he knew all of it, every detail. And I was wondering, how did news get back to him before Salvatore got home?
Yep.
Yeah. And also what was going on between Salvatore and his brother's wife.
It's got to be Severen. It's got to be. That's the only thing that makes sense to me.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That one I'm willing to believe that people in the city just talked. I'm willing.
No, not at all.
That's a little bit Shakespearean. I like
She's
that
out
one.
there. She's out there.
Yeah, I don't think you could keep that quiet.
No. And especially not the way that Helena does things. You know what I
No.
mean? She's not very quiet, I don't think.
She is not quiet.
Looking at my notes, this is where I think I found the only difference between the beta and versions that we read and this published version. So Salvatore and Lord Lorian literally fight. They've got
Yeah.
physical battle. And what I remember from the first time reading was that Salvatore just got his
No, you're
butt
right.
whooped and
You're
got
right.
cast
The
out.
first time.
But
The
in
first
this
time
version,
was
it's
being
like give and take.
dominated by his
It's a
father.
real MMA fight. Did you guys remember it that way, or am I wrong?
Yeah,
Oh, I
that's
agree. Yeah.
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 Well, I think the original in
Which one do you
some
like better?
ways
Do you
makes
like
it
this like
more
Salvatore gives as much as he
makes him more
gets, or
malleable
do
to
you like
be
the original just
enticed
daddy
to be a
beating on him?
Shadow Lord. But I like that he gives back.
Yeah, I thought that him giving back was like
True.
showing
True.
who he's going to be, as he's not just gonna be in agreement with what's happening. He's gonna do something about it, which also shows point to the Shadow Lord.
yeah, it definitely shows that the beatdown's even more
Emotionally.
important because he was actually trying to fight back and he just got completely overpowered. A complete beatdown, not only physically but mentally, because he couldn't keep up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like the idea that he has spine. I think it makes it makes what happens in the Dreadhold make more sense to me from his character. But anyways, yeah, so he gets his butt whooped and he runs out and he flees out to Lazarus and Amara. And they offer some food and support and healing and whatever. And the first thing that I really liked was the description of the herbs hanging outside of Lazarus and Amara's house. You have wormwood, mint, and hyssop. Which wormwood is actually, I'll just do any of you guys know what these symbolize off the top of your head? I don't want to just sit here and pontificate. Okay. I like that say wormwood represents bitterness, suffering, and judgment. And I really feel like that kind of represents Amara and Lazarus's past or upbringing. And then you have mint, which is supposed to symbolize hospitality and virtue, which is sort of their current nature and their current home. And then hyssop is a holy herb that symbolizes
Yeah,
like
that's
sacrifice
right.
and redemption, which I think is like kind of represents all that
Yeah.
they give in their fight against, what's happening in the future. And I thought that was a really nice kind of quiet piece of writing that Sara did. And then of course Salvatore is all like, why didn't Amara pick me?
I think he wants some more.
And we see his wish for love and family.
Do you think he actually wants Amara, or do you think he just wants Amara to want him?
No, I think he wants what she symbolizes. He thinks that he wants her, but actually he wants what she symbolizes.
What does she symbolize?
I think a safe place and someone to trust. Maybe he sees his own mother in her because he never knew her.
I was going to say there was a line where he was saying about how if his mother had survived his childbirth, that the house would have been made with love, like he would have felt love. And I don't think he necessarily wants Amara, but I definitely think that the feeling is what he wants, not the person.
I think I
Well, his
remember that line.
It meant
Actually, given that his mother was a mistress of shadows, do you think he
the
would have gotten that like love and caring, that he says that his mother would have given him?
I don't know, because like you've got Balthazar and and they have children, so they're obviously capable of showing love. Because obviously in the book he's all about his children and his family until they all disappear, and then it's just about revenge. But I think he would have been given the love if she'd survived.
I often forget about Balthazar and Zara's loving household. I always forget that little detail because then Balthazar goes on to do some pretty heinous stuff.
Yeah,
but
but
even
I think
it's
maybe that's the
Patrick's favorite
driving
parts.
force.
but even Salvatore's father said that his mother was goodness and sunlight and or whatever he said, it just warmth and everything good, and that he took her from him. So she apparently was a very kind and warm person.
Unless Lord Lorian is just that much of a douche that she seems wonderful in comparison. Chapter 1 comes to an end with the news that Salvatore's brother Julian has been killed in battle. And then we jump in time in chapter 2 and we go to the funeral. And I have two questions about Julian's death and the funeral. Because the main part of this chapter is all the after feast. That's the main. But do we think that Severen had anything to do with Julian's death?
He could have, for sure. Because, I mean, Julian was invincible. He was,
I can certainly see that, because that still forces the hand of Salvatore. Because if Sorry, dog's barking.
Julian.
If Julian was allowed to live, and allowed to be El Primo number, the best of the best and all this other stuff, then he would still stay in the shadows. He wouldn't be thrust into the forefront of
Yeah, it wouldn't
being
have
the
been the
target.
driving force.
Yeah, the driving force.
Yeah. I mean, if Julian doesn't die, the boys don't go to war. They don't get changed by that. They don't come home and off Helena and get taken off to prison. I mean, this is like the pivotal moment in the books, right?
Uh-huh.
I suppose the only other notable thing about the funeral is that Lord Lorian tells Salvatore that it should have been him.
I know. Oh my
That's rough,
gosh.
bro.
There's,
But not
worst.
surprising.
yeah, there's a reason why she
Not
had tags,
surprising at all.
in this one,
After the funeral, there is the celebratory feast of life or whatever, where Turtanu, the leader of the army, drunkenly gets up and tries to recruit everybody to the army by offering them a whole bunch of money. And
5,000
Lazarus is all
gold.
like 5,000 gold would do me a lot of good. And then Lord Lorian was like, my remaining son's a wuss. And Salvatore's like, I'm not a wuss. I'm going to join the army too. You'll see.
But then that makes me think about going back to that question of the driving force. If Julian hadn't been killed, then neither one of them would have had any sort of drive to join the war, to then get the ball rolling in the rest of their story.
I mean, I suppose that Lazarus could have always been tempted by gold. But yeah, what reason would Salvatore have had if his brother lived?
None. But then, the big speech of giving the money would have never occurred either. With
I'm sure Sarah could have written that another way. Just like Turtanu coming back to the city and going to pubs and whatever. But yeah, I agree with you. As it stands, it wouldn't have been as organic.
Yeah.
There was one line in this feast that really stood out to me. And it's in the corner, Salvatore stood half drowned in shadow. And I thought that was really like Salvatore's already halfway there, or half dark, or half evil, or half something. And that was pretty cool.
Foretelling.
That's very foretelling, yeah.
So Lazarus heads back and goes back to see Amara and to tell his mom and Amara that he's going off to war, which they're not all up on. That they're
Of course not. Yeah.
And Amara is grinding some herbs into a paste, sage and myrrh, and I thought those were interesting.
What do those represent?
I'm glad you asked, Lisa. Sage is primarily about like clearing the senses and inviting wisdom. Which is sort of like, I kind of think represents Amara. And then myrrh is about grounding, endurance, and like almost like a transition between life and death, or trying to evade death or something like that. And that's obviously very much Lazarus and his decision to go off to war.
For sure. I would have never thought of looking up what those meant.
I'm gonna have to start doing it for the rest of the book. If there's ever
Yeah.
mentions, have to start going, well, hold on a second.
My wife thinks I'm crazy when I talk about this kind of stuff.
No. They're
Not
Easter
crazy,
eggs for
just
sure.
dedicated.
So myrrh
Yep.
actually is also used for healing, like a pain sedative, because they actually give that to Jesus, after he was
Yeah.
crucified, to kind of help mask the pain, per se.
I think that's exactly where the symbolism of like trying to like keep life and invade death kind of comes from. I think it's probably exactly that.
You know,
But
Amara's name actually also means immortal. I just remembered.
I didn't know that.
No, I just remember I read it somewhere. It means immortal, and I think what is it in? Oh, it also means I think grace and mercy. So it fits her very well.
Wow.
That's right.
I just wrote that down. I'm gonna go double. I'm not trying to say you're wrong, but I'm gonna go double check the crap out of that.
it's
That's
fine,
interesting. Are we gonna have to look up everybody's names now? We're gonna have to look up. Oh, all right. OCD Matt's gonna look up everybody's names.
Good.
Well, I just did, and you're right. It is Sanskrit and Greek for immortal. So
Love it.
and
That's
she's good for using.
That's awesome.
She is good for using archaic, quote unquote, dead languages. Hence the Aramaic in the chant.
Mm-hmm.
And then the entire first book essentially taking place with Latin.
Exactly.
Yeah. I suppose I want to have this debate with you. How old is Lazarus's mother? Because I feel like is there a mistake here?
I think she
okay,
may have
so-
had him when. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. I want to hear from you.
I think maybe she had him when she was older.
Yeah. I've always thought of her like, I don't know, 60, 70.
Yes. She's definitely
Me
described as
too.
60, 70, but Lazarus is 21 years old.
I know, more like a grandson.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Sarah had Isaac when she was 100 and something, so back then it was different.
But if Lazarus's mother is Severen's sex slave, how did she go all of those decades with no kids? That's crazy.
How do you know that she doesn't have kids somewhere?
Because they're not in the book, Patrick. That's how I know.
Where they're not.
Because there's no secret at all. No secrets.
They're not in this book, you know. There's a lot of people
My
that show up
question-
randomly that.
All right, we got to all be on the lookout for Lazarus's siblings for the rest of the series. We're
That's
gonna
right.
we're gonna tinfoil hat this stuff. Then we go to chapter 3, and that's when I hate this chapter. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I think this is one of those chapters in the series that I can't stand. Salvatore wakes up in the arms of Helena. I just hate Helena.
Yeah.
And I think up until now, Salvatore is supposed to be like the victim that we all pity and like get behind and root for, but he's cheating on his, like, he's not cheating, but it's his brother's wife. It's
I think he started out the victim, but that's what made him so, like,
He snapped.
just the way he is.
mm-hmm.
So
100%
my
agree.
thing is like,
It
is he?
takes and takes.
But is he doing it because of the love aspect? Because if he's not being shown love from his dad, and you know his mum's died, and he's wanting that human connection, is he just going to take it from where he can get it? You know, being grief stricken. Is he doing it not because he loves them, but because he just wants some form of human connection?
Well, he can get that anywhere. I think the fact that it's his brother's wife definitely gives him something Julian has.
It also gives him that control because, you know, he really lost it when he walked in on her having fun with 2 other guys. You know, I was like, wait a second, I thought you were waiting for me. You said you were going to wait for me. And she was like, yeah, whatever. You know, I'm going to get mine, you know, and a Alina precursor.
for sure.
But I also
I never
wonder if it's
understood.
because he wants the power over his brother, because his brother's the number one. His brother's the one that gets the dad's attention, that is like the be all and end all, and the one thing he can do is go, well, you haven't got her anymore, I have.
And he also, remember, claims that he's going to surpass his brother's, you know,
Legacy.
glory in battle when he tells his father he's going to war. He doesn't say, I'm going to honor my brother by doing this. He says, I'm going to surpass him. I mean, who says that?
Y'all said it all. That, yeah.
I just never understood why he trusted her. It's very clear he can't trust her.
Oh,
So
that's
I'm like,
this chapter specifically is why I asked how you guys view the narration.
and we
Yeah.
also had, I also thought there was an Easter egg in this one with the shadows. Did you guys notice that with the silent is whispering?
Yes.
Sure. Yes, I was like, is this the shadows? You sure it's not shadows? And you sure it's silence? I thought it was the shadows.
Yes, there's a lot of allusion to the shadows inside of Helena's little house or apartment or whatever. But there's another allusion to the shadows is he is like his self-image. He looks at himself in one of Helena's mirrors. And he says,
I
a
missed
stranger
that.
looked back, not a man, not a brother, a shadow with my face. Salvatore, the silence whispered, you do not belong here. And I think that's exactly what you're talking about, Lou. And so you have to wonder, are the shadows already like reaching out to him and noticing who he is? Or is this more of that author liberty?
I think it's already there. I think the shadows have been working on Salvatore for a while.
And are they autonomous shadows that are just reaching out to Salvatore, or are those Severen's shadows?
Severen's shadows, I think. That's mine.
Well, I don't think they'd be
I feel like it's
Salvatore's
just
yet because he hasn't ascended yet. So I definitely think it would be, Severens that are pushing him in that direction. But where do the shadows come? Like, do the shadows just break off, or from somebody else, from another shadow lord, or like when they ascend, or where exactly do these shadows come from? Who are they becoming from? Because it talks about the shadows are the one that accept them into being the shadow lords.
I don't think
Well,
the
I
shadows
think it's
come from
like what
anybody. I think the
Samantha
shadows
said.
just exist.
They just exist.
And
I
then
think it's like what
um
Samantha said. They're there, and then he works through them.
the way I viewed it from reading it the second time round is it's almost like a magic mirror effect. Like you're viewing the things happening, you're able to use it as like a talking device, like telling people maybe what they want to hear, or feeding it into the mind that that's what they should be doing. More as like, if they're not, they don't have to directly be in the room.
I've always liked this magic system because it's not a magic system, right? It's like the shadows in and of themselves have power, and then they determine who they will do things for, or at whose command they will do things. And it's a little bit more complicated than that, but it's not like the shadows exist inside of somebody and are let out, right?
Right. They the shadow lords can manipulate the shadows.
Or
Only
maybe
if the
the other
shadows
way
want to be
around.
manipulated. Yeah, but only if the shadows allow
Yeah.
themselves to be manipulated. But that's just, the shadows exist everywhere. So if they exist everywhere, they can be used by a shadow lord, right? I think that's exactly what Sam was talking about. So if there's a candle anywhere, it's going to cast a shadow, and boom,
But then I think, like, obviously I don't know if that's the way that Sarah's written it, but I do think it is also, it does contrast the light and dark, that wherever the shadows are going to be, you're going to have a form of light.
Right. Light and dark, good and evil.
Yeah.
Ooh, but okay, so talking back to what Lou was talking about, why does Salvatore trust Helena in any way, shape, or form? Because, man, the way that Helena is described, she's described twofold. He describes her, or, well, the narrator does, as almost like a priestess or a goddess,
I literally
this
had that
beautiful
highlighted.
whatever. Almost, but then, and on the other flip of the coin, she's described as like an actress, a snake, a man collector who just treats them as disposable items. She
So why did
slipped
Julian
free like
marry
a
her?
serpent shedding its skin. Yeah. So here's the question. I go back to the very beginning of our conversation. Does Salvatore know this about Helena? Is Salvatore the one who is actively understanding this and telling us? Or is this a narrator, the author, letting us in on who Helena really is? But Salvatore has no idea.
I think Salvatore is putting blinders on.
Like he
He
knows
wants.
exactly who she is, but he really likes getting some.
I don't know if he knows who she is. He doesn't want to see it. He wants to believe that she wants him and only him, and he means everything to her. That's what he wants. So that's what his narrative is.
Would you maybe what word do I want to use? Would you liken this to maybe an abusive relationship where it's
For
clear that
sure.
abuse is taking place, but we don't want to like admit to ourselves that abuse is taking place, so we stay in the relationship type of
Definitely.
oversimplified
Definitely.
example.
Well, he wouldn't have made the whole speech of, you won't be with anybody while I'm gone. You'll wait for me. Deep down, he knows who she is, but he's just kidding himself.
I
He
think the
wants to
way
be the man.
I also
What
think
were you?
we hear we have something with the more I claimed her, the more she owned me, and then it's something with his heart and soul and flesh. And if it's him thinking this, then he knows, but he actually loves her somehow, I think.
I think he wants to. I don't know if he knows what love is.
No,
He's never had it in his life. I think he wants to possess her.
yeah,
I think he wants to possess everybody. I think that's almost the
yeah.
point of the book,
Mm-hmm.
But there was
Well, and that
which is
could
sad because it's a real thing.
and that could be his version of love, like, because that's all he knows is possession.
Exactly. Exactly.
my question
Why did
is
Julian ever marry her?
She's hot.
It's
Okay.
like Helen of Troy.
but there's
I
like
was
you're
gonna
gonna
there's
say
a
say
this
whole
just
Samantha.
yours.
section where he's talking about her, and my question is whether she is being controlled by the shadows as well, because it says she watched me from beneath her lashes, her gaze slow, syrup slick. Every inch of her was a performance, a goddess of grief, lips as red as bloodied silk, eyes rimmed in coral, skin kissed by flame, draped in shadow and perfume, crowned in war paint and ash. She was a
For
battlefield.
sure. Definitely.
I forgot about that little mention of shadow there. I
Yeah.
remembered and wrote down the whole goddess thing, but yeah, the draped in shadow. That's a.
He also
So now you
meant
have to wonder if if Julian was with her because she was good, but then after Julian left and Salvatore started his affair, did Severen get his claws into her?
Yeah. That's why I was asking. Why would Julian marry her? But I think she was under the control of Severen.
Points go to Sam for this one.
Mm-hmm.
I'd highlighted it on my Kindle, and I was like, that's the only bit that I'd noticed the reference about shadows, and whether she was being manipulated, or was the manipulation for Salvatore.
And actually, so I mean, we'll get to this. We'll fast forward a second, and when Salvatore comes back from war and walks in on her and her, like, let's be honest, pornographic display, that's very kind of reminds you of Severen's like sex dungeon. So that could be his influence too.
sure.
Maybe she's not such an adult actress. Maybe Severen makes her.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of talk about in chapter 3, but I just don't like chapter 3 because I don't like Helena. I don't like her. I
But
also
she
don't like
must have
her
some redeeming qualities if Julian married her. I
because
mean, there
Julian's
must have been
perfect. Yeah.
something. Yeah, I mean, he wouldn't have married somebody like that. So she has to be influenced.
We also have these little bits. I think is he preparing a horse or something? And I think it said a last kindness. It's something Helena does. I don't know, quite remember it. It was something with the horse. I think it was settled. I think she did that, and then we get to know this was a last kindness. So I think we're supposed to see her like she's not 100% bad. She can be good.
Uh-huh.
I mean, she's definitely named Helena for a reason because Helen of Troy,
Yeah,
right, is
yep,
like
my thought.
the 100% representation in literature of the intersection of like unparalleled beauty and devastation, which
Mhm.
kind of tracks. Actually, Lou, I was looking ahead into my notes. You mentioned Salvatore's horse.
Yeah,
That's the next thing I want to talk about. Chapter 3 ends with Salvatore leaving, getting on his horse, and riding off to Lazarus and Amara's place. And I know this is not the first time we've heard tell of Salvatore's horse in this book, but I thought this is probably the best time to maybe talk about his horse, because chapter 4 picks up with them going off to war, and that's a whole other can of worms. Salvatore's horse is named, Lou, you want to say that again?
Nyros.
Nyrus, yeah.
I had to look up what Nyros means. I
Of
had
course you did.
no idea. I wonder, Lou, do you know what Nyros means? Are you in on this?
Oh,
No?
I do.
Okay. So I don't know. I found 2 main potential meanings. So, and this is something I don't understand at all, but in the World Anvil Ilara setting, I think it's some type of game. I don't know. Maybe like Magic the Gathering or something. Nyros is the god of nightmares, and he reigns over the shadowed realm of dreams and twisted visions that haunt people as they sleep.
Wow.
That's pretty cool.
Very
And I
cool.
don't know if that's what this horse represents.
Seems like a nice horse.
Yeah,
But it is
The
Salvatore's horse.
a good
yeah,
fit for Shadow Lord.
because he describes his horse as being black. He's got a dark horse, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which is its own thing. He's riding a dark horse. Salvatore has always been the dark horse, right?
That's right.
The one the other nod, Nyros, could be a nod to Nairobi, just, Africa, which literally translates to place of cool waters. And then water is supposed to symbolize like purity and sustenance in life. And given that Ugarit is a port city on the water, like that could be a nod to that. Or like the only way that Salvatore survives his childhood is that he's able to ride his horse out of the city and go see Lazarus and Amara. And so is the horse supposed to represent his escape to purity, his escape to the only thing that makes him survive.
I think
And
it could be both,
Yeah.
his darkness and his salvation.
I almost want to think that the horse represents purity, just given that at a certain point, the horse disappears from the story. And that's almost like the point of no return for Salvatore as he enters the Dreadhold. It's like his
Yeah.
purity and innocence is taken away.
Oh, for sure then.
His one last
But-
true love is now gone.
Yeah, his horse. He's doing horse things. So he rides this horse into the war camp. That's the beginning of chapter 4. They get to the camp. They get initiated brutally. Then they do a year of war. And out of nowhere, they're promoted to leading the army. Salvatore messes up. Lazarus doesn't. We have fallout. That's sort of the
In a
arch.
nutshell.
And I guess we could just kind of walk through some of this stuff one by one. Like they have to prove their worth to fight. And Salvatore fights a giant and loses, and then Lazarus fights 3 dudes and wins. And I'm just like, how are these tests of manhood in any way, shape, or form equal?
I don't think they are,
No.
but it could be some manipulation there.
I kept going back to the idea that Sara Samuels needed a way to have Salvatore get in a fight. He cannot win, but will still try to get back up. Just like
Yeah.
he does with his father.
Which is yeah.
And then she needed a way for Lazarus to look like the golden boy again. And then, of course, Lazarus comes to help Salvatore, and the crowd, like, essentially tells them that they're gay and makes fun of them for it.
Exactly.
And Salvatore just, like, loses his shit
Yeah.
and beats this dude bloody. And I'm curious to you guys, did
There's,
he lose? Did he lose his? Go ahead.
So no, I was just going to say there's a line in the book that really stuck with me, where it said, the crowd erupted again and the verdict was passed, and in that moment, half conscious, bloodied, the dust choking me, that I knew I had lost not just the fight but my name, the shadow of my father, the ghost of my brother, and something inside me shifted. So I wondered if that was the start of the change. If I couldn't win their honor, I would take it in another way, and I would make them choke on my name.
That's why he was so desperate to get the head of the enemy and surpass his brother. And that's why he moved out of formation and didn't listen to Lazarus and got him into trouble.
I do think you pinpointed the moment where he goes from trying to be better to trying to win at all costs. Good pinpoint. Because he does end up killing that guy that made fun of him in order to prove his worth to join the army. And it's just like, man, could you guys do that? I couldn't do that. Maybe I could punch him in the face, but I'm not going to stab him with a sword. Holy crap. Because going off of what Sam said, the quote I wrote down was, after he kills that guy, he says, I had done what was demanded. I had taken the ugly thing and made it mine. And in that moment, the gate closed behind me. I stepped through. Whatever I'd done before lay in the dirt with the man whose last breath I had stolen. Just like, dude. Then suddenly they're in the army. Weeks of fighting bleed into months, and months bleed into a year, and everybody changes. Lazarus is like holding on to his love for Amara, whereas Salvatore is just like bloodlust. And Lazarus specifically sees, quote, the shadows settle heavier on him, Salvatore, with every passing battle. And then they say that days blurred into nights, nights into nightmares, and then into something worse, empty spaces where time lost meaning. And I highlighted that thinking, isn't that just an amazing amount of foreshadowing for the Dreadhold itself?
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
But then Turtanu promotes them both to be generals, commanding 50% of the army out of nowhere. And I got beef with this, and I wondered if you guys have beef with this.
Me too.
Maybe he was influenced. I
Well, I could
think
see Lazarus being promoted to that because obviously he had proved himself time and time and time again. But Salvatore, was he just given the chance because of who his dad was? Like, hey, you know what? He's definitely got the bloodlust part of him. He's definitely got the drive to prove himself. His dad is Lorian, Lord Lorian. Maybe we should just see what happens.
and the fact of
And
their relationship, that they're close, maybe he thought that Salvatore would actually listen to Lazarus.
it's an interesting thought.
Maybe they
Putting it,
wanted to make sure. Oh, you go ahead.
no, putting a team together, like two people that work well together. But then, what were you going to say, Lou?
I just wanted to say maybe they were like, oh my God, he's killing our own. He can't control this. We're just gonna turn it into onto the enemy instead.
What were they promoted from? Were there smaller promotions along the way? Were they like foot soldiers and they were given half the army? Was there any officer training? What is going on? What happened to the existing generals? Who was leading the army before? Maybe I'm barking up the wrong tree, and this is like, Matt, it's a fantasy book. Shut up. But I'm with
No,
Patrick.
it's interesting.
In what world would any leadership hierarchy of any kind give Salvatore and his character a chance to lead?
No, definitely not.
Yeah.
No. Coming from a military
Unless
background.
that's the only option. Like if you've exhausted all of your options, then would that be a possibility? If you've literally, like, if like Julian's died and then the other general and the higher up people have died, then do you then just have to give it to the people who are sort of next in line, whether they're worthy or not? Is it's sort of irrelevant.
And I still think, I think you have a good point there, Samantha, but I do think that to give it any kind of credence, I mean, if I were the guy in charge, I would think, well, obviously this Lazarus has some sway over, Salvatore. Maybe putting them together would be a good idea. Because remember, he made a point of saying Lazarus is in charge. He is leading the charge, and
Main attack.
Salvatore, you do what he says. I mean, that's the only way I can rationalize it.
I mean, how about this as a rationalization? So nothing about this army or the war camp makes any sort of historically accurate sense, right?
No,
Like, these war
right.
camps were not MMA fighting, proving yourself brutal places. They were actually pretty calm. They were meticulously documented. The soldiers actually lazed about, especially in that part of the world, because like it was hot. But maybe this is just Severen messing with Turtanu and making him an evil, kind of malevolent, brutal dictator type of individual. I don't know. And therefore maybe it's more like you get the phrase of the means to the end. Do the means
Of
justify
course.
the end? And maybe the means don't matter and the results all that Turtanu wants.
Exactly.
And so
'cause
Salvatore would be decent. Maybe that's a rationalization.
he knows Salvatore is going to screw it up.
I'm waiting to see if Patrick's going to nod with that one or not.
I think so, only because I was just kind of going back. I'm thinking back Severin's got his hand all over guiding Severen and Lazarus, because he talks about it to Gareth and goes, I've been watching these guys. I know these guys are coming. I'm pushing them in this direction, with the shadows that I have that are watching them or are guiding them or pushing them. So I can definitely see it to where, we're just going to him guiding Tortano to say, you're going to do it, and Tortano may be like, no, I'm not. And then Sarah's like, okay. And then the shadows, I don't know, whisper to him to make him crazy or, well, let's just go ahead and do it. Because we don't know what Severen said to him to make him actually do it, because even Tortana at the celebration of life per se, that he was like, well, we're just going to do this. It had no clue that, Salvatore and Lazarus were going to join. But then through all of this proving, I'm not going to give it to him, but if that's what I'm being nudged to do, and like, Lisa was saying, maybe Lazarus can hold on to him, can guide him, can control him. Don't think so, but hey, let's see what happens. We got to get this guy killed. Let's see what happens.
Everyone knows it's going to.
Let's end this war.
Yeah, I think Tortuno thought that, but Severen definitely thought it was going to blow up. I mean, he's lining this all up.
Then they have the big battle. I guess we could talk about the battle, but does the battle ultimately matter, or does the fallout of the battle matter? What do you guys want to talk about?
The fallout.
I think the fallout is what happens.
Fallout.
Okay, so TLDR, Lazarus follows orders. Salvatore doesn't. Lazarus saves his ass and claims victory. Okay.
But then tries to give it to Salvatore. Say, no, we're going to do this together.
Actually, I suppose leading into the battle, one tidbit that we get for the first time that is important is Turtanu calls Lazarus Commander James. And that's the first time we get Lazarus's last name.
Yes.
Wow, I didn't even catch that.
And
I
obviously,
caught that too.
Olivia's last name is James.
Wow.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, after the battle, we get two things. Lazarus gets all the praise and Salvatore gets destroyed. And I think there's things that we can talk about in both of them. Where do you guys want to start?
I mean, just that, Lazarus sees that Salvatore has led 10,000 men into, jump the gun and let them all die just so he could have glory. Salvatore just said, I gotta go. I mean, Lazarus said, I've got to go fix this. And he cuts off the head of their leader and then says, you're nothing without your leader. He kind of gives them a psychological talking to, like, you're done. Your leader's dead. Goodbye. And it works. Lazarus is very impressive in this situation.
Yes, he is. It is. I was very much reminded of the movie 300 with Lazarus slipping through the entire army and killing one dude. Anyways, yeah, so Lazarus gets heaped with praise and he's given the 5,000 gold he was promised. But he also learns that his father was never a war hero and his mother must have lied to him about his daddy.
Exactly.
And
they even
I think I've reached a point where we gotta know why everybody's got daddy issues. I mean, I guess Olivia's got mommy issues, but
it makes it so delicious.
I think the big kicker here is that when Salvatore is called in to get his verbal lashing, which is like the nail in the coffin, when you're told that you're the kind of person that a father drinks to forget, oh, okay. I think the big thing is that Lazarus is not dismissed. Lazarus stands there and watches and listens to everything. And that blows my mind.
And Salvatore even wonders why Lazarus isn't more happy about everything, but he doesn't know that Lazarus has just found this news out. And I think there's I think the whole daddy issue thing is a big deal because it prepares them to want to move on to the next stage, because a man without like a father figure or a positive father figure in their life is going to, what have they got to lose, you know?
I wonder how the story would be different if Lazarus was dismissed and Lazarus never heard what Salvatore went through there. Like, would Salvatore just lie to him about everything, or would the following day's events have gone differently? Or I don't know. But Salvatore is stripped of everything, and he's dismissed.
Hey Matt,
And he,
that's
yo,
an interesting concept.
okay, go.
Because I was in the Marine Corps for 12 years, and as a leader in the Marine Corps, to have one of my subordinates or even one of my peers chastised, ridiculed, beaten down with me standing there is even harder to take than hearing about it from the back end. Even if you're brought in afterwards and the leader that did all the breaking down says, "Hey, this is what happened," and you understand why it happened, you saw what happened out on the battlefields. I had to do this, but to stand there and watch it happen means that there is no chance for Salvatore to come out and sugarcoat it, like, yeah, he yelled at me, I understand what I did wrong, it's okay, so I won't do it again, this type of thing. Hey, you want to go, split the 5,000 and, let's run off and grab Amara and go somewhere, because at that point, Lazarus is like, yeah, no, I don't, no, this is mine and you're dumb, so, from a military standpoint, that was something that kind of stood out because I've been through a few butt chewings myself, and I've also witnessed quite a few butt chewings because it was something that was out of my control, and I had to stand there, but I had to be almost like hold him accountable because of what he did and what he was getting yelled at for. So it's an interesting concept that as I was reading it, I was like, okay, whatever. And I guess probably because I was in the Marine Corps or I've been there, done that type of thing. It just washed over for me because I was like, oh yeah, okay, no problem. I've been there, done that, seen that. And then we just move on to the next part of the book, so
Discipline's just sort of part of the military life.
yeah. So for you to mention it and be like, that's a big thing. I didn't think about thinking about it that way.
Oh, it was purposeful, yeah.
Yeah.
It's rough, bro.
It's a fun time, that's for sure. That's what we call it anyway.
He rides home, and I know we've already talked about this, but his dad already knows everything. And they ride home the morning after the battle, which I can't believe, being in an all-day battle where like 12,000 men die, taking like ostensibly a nap and then riding for days to get back home.
They wanted to get the hell out of there.
But why does he want to go home?
Yeah.
No, but I mean, yeah.
But Lord Lorian already knows everything, and I think we've already kind of discussed this with Severen passing him all the information and whatever. But I suppose the big thing is that after Lord Lorian disowns him, although I should ask, do you guys have any part of the whole disowning fight that you want to talk about?
Oh, it just
I mean,
preempts or foreshadows, there's nothing left. It's like
yep,
um,
rock
let's
bottom.
just get together and we're going to get on our horses and we're just going to ride away into the sunset together. All just the three of us. We're just going to go. And Lazarus is like, no, I'm good. I'm happy here. You can do that if you want. Peace out, you know, but, um, but I think that just, sets up Salvatore being truly by himself.
Yeah. Actually, that's a really good point because I think something I forgot to talk about, but I have highlighted in the book is when they go to war and Lazarus is telling Salvatore that they'll always be together, but Salvatore keeps having this inner monologue where he's just like, I've been this is the most alone I've ever felt type of a thing. So it's almost like he's self-isolating himself.
Mhm.
Yeah, but after he's disowned, he's got to go. He's mad at Helena because, of course, it's not Salvatore's fault,
Of
right?
course
Why would
not.
it be his fault? He didn't lead 10,000 men to his death. That's not the problem. And the problem isn't that he slept with Helena, his brother's wife. The problem is that somebody told his daddy, and we
Mhm.
got to go kill the tattletale. And he
My
reaches her house and
my question is obviously there was the whole thing about I keep coming back to the shadows, but there was shadows mentioned about Helena. There's shadows mentioned about being in the tent when he gets telling off, where it says the shadows writhe across the fabric like ghosts, restless and waiting. So I genuinely do believe that this is all uh it is all
Severen.
fed back. Yeah. Like there's no that obviously we said about the dad finding out about um Helena, but I genuinely think there's got to be some form of like ear whispering
Mhm.
telling him all the stuff that's happening.
I 100% missed the description of the shadows on the tent walls. Good catch.
Yeah.
Are we going to put Sam on Shadow Watch? Is
Yeah, that's her claim to fame.
But it's something that's stuck in my mind. Obviously, uh, reading all the books beforehand, and then having this as the last book that I read. Rereading it as the first book, there's a lot more that you start to realize. You know, pay a little bit more attention. Do this, do that. Um, that when we were talking about the shadows, it's one of the things that's stuck in my head a lot more this time around.
Definitely. You've got a good point there.
Well, I would piggyback that to, I've read the series, 4 or 5 times. I can't remember now because it's always just one of my go back tos. But until Matt, you put this group together, I haven't really dived into like nitpicking and what does this mean, or like actually stopping and going, okay, hold on, let me figure it out. And thank goodness I got everything on Kindle because it makes so much easier to search things out. Um, Makes it so much
we
faster.
are we are opposites with that. I want the physical books that I can
Oh,
leaf through quickly.
that's just it. I've started to do that. Um, and I've got my tabs out and I've got my notes in the margin. I actually purchased a set of books just to mark up. Um, but that's just it. Up until like this group here, let me like the last year, I've really started to be like, wait a second, I got to figure this out. This is definitely something. There's definitely something, especially now the last book's coming out. Um, so I agree with you, Sam, with reading it the second time, or like actually doing a research project on it, almost like a dissertation.
Mhm.
Um,
It's like it feels like a study, and you have to like make notes. So I've got the physical book, but I also have the Kindle version, and I go through the Kindle version and use the highlighting app to highlight the points. So I don't have this like a second set of books, but there's always the Kindle that's got the highlighted notes on it. But yeah, until this group got together, I was like just reading for the sake of reading it, and now it's like, no, actually there is a lot to study, and there's a
Yeah.
lot to go back on, and yeah.
Do you guys have any thoughts on Salvatore finding Helena in a 3-way and then offing everybody? Because that's where this section of reading comes to the end.
Well,
I can see it.
that's his final nail in the coffin.
I'd be like, what?
That's the lowest of the low.
I'm gonna specifically stare at Lou for a second. I know that the sexually graphic parts of the books aren't necessarily your favorites.
No, it
This
was
one,
okay.
this one is
I didn't
pretty
skip this one.
deprived.
I didn't skip this one.
I viscerally react every time to when he walks in and the position she's in.
Yeah.
I'm curious what your reaction was. It's crazy.
And I've read so much of this, so it was just business like usual.
That's
It was
crazy.
definitely
It's
cringeworthy.
crazy that that's business as usual.
I've read much more graphic. So this was it was mild.
I was taken aback, to be honest. I was just like, even as Wicked Lovers was, when he walked in and saw her the way she was, I was like, I even think I sent Sarah a message like, right, I was like, whoa, that was not what I was expecting at all.
I've read more graphic too, but I mean, I think when I was reading it, I was looking through the eyes of Salvatore, and it was very upsetting through his eyes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
'cause
that's I mean, it's like the perfect intersection of cold blood, but also years of rage buildup.
Mm-hmm.
And once again, no love for him.
That's
Yeah, it's the
right.
emotional
no
He's
love for
trauma.
nothing
him.
again.
Yeah, because if it would have
Again,
been
he's nothing.
narrated through her eyes, it would have been like every other graphic romance novel out there. But to see it
Exactly.
through his eyes, to be completely floored with it, it was just, yeah, it was something that was completely different. And again, kind of going back to what, I've said before, almost makes it realistic, because I would have a hard time walking in on my wife coming back from war and be like, yeah, no. Not gonna happen.
I love how she tries to reason with him and she's like, but I thought you were dead. And it's like, no, hold up. Let's maybe, you remember how your husband's body came back and we buried that dude? Could you have like waited for my body to have come back at the very least
know.
before just
It was bull. Yeah.
like, it's, yeah,
But I think
part of me wants to be like, this chapter sucks, but like, I think it's pretty important to Salvatore's character.
I think it is. Yeah, I think it's definitely one of the things. Again, the graphicness of all that stuff seems to be perfectly placed to set up what's coming next.
well, it's the last. It's the final. You're nothing. You're a loser. You're unwanted. Nobody's true to you except for Lazarus and Amara, but that's the last out of everyone
And I think
else.
that's the exact point, is that everybody that he possibly loved or could have possibly loved him is either dead or dead to him. And that leaves only
Rejected it.
Lazarus and Amara. So when he doesn't get what he wants from them, it is the last straw.
But even then, going back to when Lazarus was there when he was getting yelled at, Lazarus didn't speak up for him. So even that goes back to, well, he was there when I was getting my butt handed to me. So what's going to happen with us? I mean, we're still together, but it's not what it used to be, not what I thought it was going to be.
No, but Salvatore needs to like suck that one up because that's a military setting and you don't mouth off
There
to your
was nothing
superiors. And you know what I
redeemable
mean?
about what he did.
No, definitely not. But, still, I don't know. That's all sorts of stuff.
Before we sign off, Sam was talking about Severen kind of masterminding all of this, and it actually made me remember something that I want to leave everybody with so that maybe we can think about this as we move forward in the reading. At the end of this book, obviously, Severen gets trapped in his tome and Lazarus buries that book, and there's a presence behind him.
Mm-hmm.
There is somebody who wants Severen's book. Who is that somebody? And are they the true mastermind of what's going on here?
Well,
To be continued. Where are your dots?
or it might be somebody trying to stop him from what he's doing or something and wants more power.
Yeah. I don't know. I suppose that'll wrap it up for today, and we will be back next week with chapters, if I remember, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11 of Rise of the Shadow Lords. Between now and next week, if you are watching this, please get into contact with us using the description down below or leave a comment or whatever, and we will see you next time in the Shadow Archives.
Absolutely.
Bye.
Bye.